Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're exploring a really potent alignment, Mercury conjunct Mars, coming up specifically around October 20th, 2025. I've got a stack of sources here, some interpretive, some anecdotal, and they mostly zero in on this idea of, well, intense mental weaponry, our mission, to figure out how you can actually wield that power with precision instead of just letting it, run wild.
That's absolutely the core challenge, isn't
Yeah.
it? We want to move beyond just saying it's intense. The real goal here is pulling out actionable insights, giving you a practical way to manage what the sources describe as this fusion of intellect and aggression. Because if you don't handle it strategically, well, the pitfalls are pretty clear. Unnecessary fights, maybe even lasting damage.
Okay, right. Let's unpack that. Why exactly is this conjunction seen as such a powerful motivator? I mean, Mercury is thoughts, Mars is action and drive. What happens when they combine like this?
Well, think of it like Mars grabs Mercury's normally analytical sword and just sharpens it a lot.
Yeah.
Mercury on its own can be observant, maybe a bit detached, sometimes even anxious. But Mars is immediate, hot, assertive. Put them together and boom, your thought processes get accelerated. They become sharp, dynamic. It stops being passive reflection energy and starts demanding application. It's basically rocket fuel for your brain, especially for revolutionary thinking.
Ah, okay. So if you've been dragging your feet on a big project, maybe like a complex strategy doc or even a tough conversation you've been avoiding, the sources suggest this gives you that needed kick in the pants. But it's
Yeah.
more than just pure motivation, isn't it? Sounds like it's particularly good for tasks needing like radical changes.
Precisely. Precision is the key word here. This energy helps you slice right through the mental clutter, the noise, and just discard what's not working anymore, what's irrelevant. Imagine, circling an issue for weeks, totally unable to find the core truth. This conjunction helps bypass all the niceties, the filters, and pushes you straight to the essential point. That's exactly why the sources recommend channeling it into things like, say, intense editing sessions, deep diving into code, or detailed financial analysis. Any task where crystal clarity is crucial and maybe sentiment needs to take a backseat for a moment.
It's fascinating, though, that the sources connect this sudden clarity not just to work stuff, but also to internal self-discovery. They suggest that once that noise gets cut away, you might suddenly realize, wow, I've been holding on to thoughts that just don't matter anymore. Or maybe my usual way of talking has been holding me back from being truly authentic. So this transit can force a kind of reckoning with your own honesty.
It really does. It forces a reorganization of your mental space. If Mercury is like the blueprint of your internal dialogue, Mars comes in almost like a demolition crew. It takes down walls you thought were essential, but were actually just barriers, limiting you. And that internal intensity, that's what sets the stage for potential external conflict. Because when those internal walls crumble, your speech tends to become, well, unfiltered.
Which brings us right to where it gets really interesting, as you said, that double edge of communication. Because when we stop filtering, words aren't just polite suggestions anymore. They become forceful assertions. And the source material is pretty blunt about warning that words can literally become weapons here, giving us this extra, maybe even unfair edge.
Yeah, we absolutely need to be prepared for some blunt conversations. One source called them spicy truths, which I think captures it perfectly. The mix of rapid-fire thinking and that aggressive Martian drive means the temptation to weaponize your words. It's going to be incredibly high. You'll feel powerful, no doubt, because you can suddenly articulate your truth instantly and with this undeniable force.
Okay, it sounds simple on the surface, be forceful but kind. But let's be real, when that Martian heat kicks in, maybe frustration or old anger is bubbling up, how do you practically hit pause before that spicy truth comes out dripping with venom? Where's the distinction? How do the sources say we can separate constructive, sharp points from just attacking someone?
That is the absolute crux of managing this transit. The sources aren't saying don't speak your mind, not at all. They're saying manage the delivery. The key guidance really comes as a stark warning. Avoid snapping at people who don't deserve it. Or, frankly, even at those who maybe do, but in a way that causes unnecessary lasting damage.
And why is that specific warning about lasting damage so critical here?
Because people will remember unnecessary sharpness delivered under this energy. It cuts deep. It's not superficial. Mercury conjunct Mars might give you a temporary win in an argument. You crush their point, you shut them down, but you could simultaneously torch credibility, trust, maybe even the relationship itself down the line. The energy is just so intense that the words land with too much force. So if a truth absolutely needs saying, the core mechanism for success is delivering it with intention, not venom.
Intention, not venom. Okay, let's try and pin that down practically. What does that look like in real time? If intention is purpose-driven, focused communication, what makes something venomous when we speak?
Venom, essentially, is when the focus slides off the issue or the action and onto the person's character. Intention speaks to the action. This report needs more detail here and here. Venom attacks the person. You clearly didn't bother to do this right. See the difference? Venom is often misplaced aggression, maybe riding on old frustrations. Intention is surgical clarity, focused purely on the correction or the truth that needs stating. That distinction is everything for using this alignment well.
Okay, that makes sense. To really bring this home, let's look at that StoryScope anecdote from the sources. It does a great job illustrating this idea of intentional precision. Let's talk about Mira.
Yeah, Mira's story starts right where many might feel before this transit kicks in that simmering frustration. She's a writer, right? Stuck in her studio, paper crumpled everywhere. She's been wrestling with the same complex, emotionally loaded sentence for 3 days. And her words, they were safe, polite, totally filtered. It was the voice of self-protection, definitely not her actual truth.
Right, so she had the Mercury part, the thinking, the drafting, but it was missing that Mars impulse, that drive needed to actually assert the difficult thing she was trying to say.
Exactly. She lacked the nerve, really, to cut to the chase. But then as the conjunction energy starts building, and remember, this peaks around October 20th, something shifts. The air changes, metaphorically speaking. Something inside her just refuses to whisper anymore. She starts writing again. And this time, the words come out raw, honest, real. She's not just describing a situation politely. She's tackling betrayal head-on, demanding clarity, stripping away the polite masks, hiding the real heat of the conflict.
The sources describe that shift so vividly. They say each truth glowed like metal drawn from a forge. That sounds powerful, but also dangerous, like a burning clarity.
That's a perfect way to put it. That's Mars supercharging Mercury. It's where mental energy meets raw passion and drive. But yeah, that raw power is inherently dangerous. And the story highlights that critical moment where she feels the force of her words sharpening maybe too much. She could actually feel her anger writing the ink, turning her message into a weapon designed to, destroy rather than clarify.
And this is the pivot point, right? Where the story gives us the practical tool. She feels that venom rising and she pauses. Her self-correction isn't, oh, I shouldn't write this hard stuff. It's, no, not venom, intention. So what did she do in that moment? What were the practical steps she took to sculpt the writing away from just aggression toward self-respect?
She edited with precision. She didn't water down the hard truths, not at all, but she stripped out the purely emotional jabs, the personal attacks. She shifted the focus from the feeling of being wrong to the fact of a boundary being crossed, turning it into a clear, non-negotiable line. She basically sculpted each sentence, making it fierce, yes, but also compassionate in a way, demanding respect without resorting to abuse.
And the final piece wasn't a furious rant. It was described as a manifesto of self-respect and clarity. That really speaks to the idea that true power is organized, focused, not just chaotic rage.
Absolutely. And the clarity she found through that careful, strategic editing, that translates directly for you, the listener. Whether you're crafting an email, giving tough feedback at work, or needing to have a crucial personal conversation. The story wraps up by saying when Mira actually spoke to her team later that day, her words carried that same intense charge from her writing. They were blunt, yes, but not cruel, honest, but not reckless.
And the key insight there is why people listen differently. It wasn't because she shouted or got aggressive. It was because she was clearer. She'd taken the raw heat of her emotion and forged it into pure, intentional communication.
That's the core synthesis, really. The storm inside Mira found its rhythm. It wasn't chaos anymore, it was purpose. The power she tapped into wasn't about shouting people down or cutting them. It lived in that crucial choice point, choosing precision over pure raw impulse, recognizing that the sharp edge this conjunction provides should be used to cut through complexity, not to cut people down.
So boiling it all down, the most profound takeaway from you as you navigate this energy around October 20th is maybe this. Real power lies in that moment. You choose to speak your truth. But speak it with the precision of a blade surgically removing what's unnecessary and with the grace not to draw needless blood. Use that edge to cut straight to the heart of the matter.
And that naturally leads to an important question for you to reflect on. Where in your own life have you maybe been filtering your truth for so long? Using politeness almost like a shield, hiding your authentic self-expression. Where could speaking with that intentional precision, that fierce compassion, actually revolutionize not just how you communicate, but maybe even your self-respect and how clearly others understand your real boundaries? Use this energy, Define those non-negotiable lines for yourself. Forge your words with purpose.